kill you.
And welcome back to Zaku Talk. I am your host, Patrick Skeyhill. This season, G versus Wing, and that means my co-host is the illustrious
Bob Skerry.
Gave you a nice one this week.
I appreciate that. I like the challenge.
Yeah.
But give me the buff every now and again.
And of course, on the audio boards is Lev Van Rensselaer, reminding me to remind you that you can email us at zakutalkcast@gmail.com. He would also like to let you know that we are now on YouTube. For those of you who don't like streaming, streaming on your phone or through these apps, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, you can now go to our sister station, Quixotic Harmonics. All of our episodes are there, along with all of my other podcasts and audio-related things. But this week, episode 45 of both of these shows. We're getting close to the end game, people. So, Bob, before we get into that, though, tell me how your week's been going.
My week has been going okay. I did something amazing this week.
What?
I actually recorded a few auditions.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah, it is good news, and they've both been listened to. I'm waiting on the third one to be listened to. Yesterday, I couldn't record because of just technical difficulties, and as soon as we're done with doing our show, I'm hoping that the lawnmowers will finish, and I can actually record. You know, lawnmowers and living near an airbase. Best place for me to do my recordings.
Yeah, that sounds annoying.
So what about you, Skeyhill? What was your week like?
Well, so there is another shoot, not mine, but I'm assisting on next weekend. So there's some prep work that has to go into that. And I'm meeting with the animators sort of frequently now on my upcoming project that shoots in the middle of June, that long-awaited project there, and looking at some more studio spaces to see which one we could shoot in, looking into some rear projection systems as a backup plan as well. Other than that, nothing overly exciting. Why don't you take us into the plot summary of episode 45 of G Gundam?
Farewell, Master. Master Asia's last breath. Or, in Japanese, Saraba Shisho. Master Asia. Akatsuki ni shisu. So the direct translation per Google Translate, farewell, Master, die at Master Asia Akatsuki. I'm sure Akatsuki translates to something, but my brain is not parsing it at the moment, and I'm not going to try and do breakdown because the Japanese love puns for a reason. All their words can meld into other words.
Yes.
But the plot summary. The final fight begins. Domon and Master Asia fight an extraordinary battle, and Domon convinces Master Asia's plans would have failed anyway. After defeating Master Asia, Domon shares one last moment with him. As they recite their litany, Master Asia dies in his arms.
Yes, I remember all of that, and much more.
Well, what about over in Wing?
Well, we have the signs of battle here. Or in the Japanese, I think they say Kessen no Yokan.
Correct. Kessen no Yokan, premonition of the decisive battle.
Okay. So Kessen is the premonition, or is it the battle?
I would venture to say that Kessen is decisive battle and Yokan is premonition. My positing here is that typically the word that would come after no would be the thing that describes the thing that comes before the no. Mm-hmm. So where the premonition is describing the decisive battle, I would say that it would be decisive battle.
Maybe it's like decisive battle's premonition.
That could very well be the way that you could describe it.
Okay. Well, in this episode, Hildy sneaks aboard the Libra to steal the blueprints and runs into Relena. When she escapes to Peace Million, she is nearly killed, until Duo arrives to fight against the rebuilt Mercurius and V8, who now are programmed with Hero and Troa's combat data. Duo then reveals to Hero from Hildy that Relena is on Libra. That's it. It's short and sweet.
Let's talk about things. What were your thoughts on G Gundam this week?
Well, another elephant in the room here. Yet again, a title that reveals too much.
I'm willing to give that to you this week, especially all things being fair.
Yeah.
This is a marker where if one did not know better, this could have been the final episode. with maybe a filler wrap up at the end. So to give away that kind of notion, which they already preluded in the previous episode's preview, it's very clear that we're now at the final fight. And we've seen Master Asia for a number of episodes now doing his cough hacking. So even if Domon hadn't directly defeated him, it was likely that Master Asia was on his last legs.
Yeah, Domon gets really lucky that Master Asia is sick, because Domon's having a real tough time with him, even when he's sick.
While that is true, I will say that I don't know if they explain it in the English, but in the Japanese, they do acknowledge that even while being deranged in his conceit of what his plans were, he still did not want to truly harm Domon. He just saw Domon as an obstacle and kept trying to scare him away. It's like when you have a lion cub and a full-grown lion. When a full-grown lion starts to age out, they still try to display their dominance until they are overtaken. And that doesn't mean that they're going to actively kill their next of kin. It's just they're going to get them as close as they can, because there's still going to need to be a leader after that one dies.
Yeah, I got some, during their fight, I got some Goku versus Jackie Chan vibes.
Oh, heck you. Heck you. At least you're using proper Dragon Ball and not the later stuff when we start getting into alien times.
Well, but he didn't fight Master Roshi was largely unnecessary by that point. But at the beginning, Master Roshi wanted to keep Goku down so that Goku would realize he had more to go. So the episode opens up, and out of nowhere, we discover that everybody's alive again, somewhat nonchalantly. Feel like you could have had a moment with that, but they just it was there in the background while the narrator was talking.
Yeah, they definitely did jump the shark there. I will give you that.
Yeah.
I had remembered from my memories of yesteryear that they were still alive, of course. I mean, who thought that the 4 other secondary main characters were actually going to die in those moments? I did not.
Yes.
I never really considered how did they get back up. I thought we were going to have a whole moment after the fact where they might have gotten up struggling or something, still battered, bleeding, and bruised. Here it's like, yeah, they're hurting. They're not really in fight mode, but overall, they're just walking around like typical civilians.
Yeah, they went from thinking thinking, quote unquote, they were dead, and then they're just like, it's okay. You could have had a nice moment with like their teams meeting them again and like being relieved that they're alive, and you could have had these nice, conversations.
Yeah.
The monks and Saisashi and the ladies and America guy. Like, there were moments to be had here.
I would have bought, because towards the end of the episode they come back anyway, but the prior Shuffle Alliance coming down and doing some Guardian Angel bullshit.
Yeah.
I would have bought that, like, hey, this is where we meet up. That's why you have my crest. Okay. Here, you don't have to die. Here's your heart again. Bye.
Yeah, and it's like, on the one hand, that would be kind of annoying, but on the other hand, since you sold us so hard that they had died, that would at least get them back alive, which I think is sort of like less annoying to do it that way than just like, hey, they're fine. You just set it up twice. Twice she had to waste episodes on like, oh no, they're dying, noble sacrifice, blah, blah, blah. And then now you're just like, I want them back, so like, there they are. If it had been like the fighters were giving up their Gundams and like, we're not going to be able to win the Gundam fight. So we have to give up our dreams to help you, Domon. Then you don't have to do a thing where like, oh, they're magically alive. Like that would be fine too. And it would still feel like a sacrifice, but you didn't go that route. There are ways you could do this.
Well, as I alluded to earlier, one could presume that this was the last or second to last episode. We have a few more, and the other members of the Shuffle Alliance are going to need to be a part of it. And so because of that, it's not like we have the time to just build the Neo versions of each of the other 4's Gundams before they have to run into this plot.
Okay, I see. So we needed their Gundams around so they could do other stuff later.
They need to be disrepaired enough that they can't involve themselves even if they wanted to, but not so bad that they can't just get a patch job over the next 2 or 3 days.
Okay. Sounds fine. During the narrator's speech here at the beginning, he's like, the Devil Gundam has finally been defeated. And I think to myself, well, I heard that before. I heard that 20 episodes Wasn't defeated then. Probably not defeated now. I'm not listening to you anymore, narrator. You are not reliable. So this Master Asia's plan, I actually do remember. I don't know why, but what his ultimate goal here is to like kind of rid humanity because we're destroying the planet. This is actually a very common theme in Gundam before and after this show. So it's a nice little callback of having to look at mankind's effect on the world. What was odd to me is that when he's talking, he came down to Earth, saw what mankind was doing in the last Gundam fight, and was like, he's like, we're destroying the planet. Look at the damage we're doing. It'd be better if we weren't here and nature could take over again, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But when he's talking about what the destruction mankind's causing, we're looking at all the cities. He's like, look what they did to your Tokyo and Rome and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But like, if you want to get rid of humanity because we're destroying it, because so nature can take over, what do you care about what we've done to the cities? Like, why didn't you show us like all the damage we've done on the Guyana Highlands or other spots we didn't get to go to? That would kind of make more sense.
See, I think that there might have been a flim-flam with Guyana Highlands, though, because you could argue for and against that. You can argue for it because of the fight with the Devil Gundam, but then you're implicating the Devil Gundam. And so you're negating the point of the Devil Gundam trying to take care of the Earth. However, if you look at the Guyana Islands pre that fight, it's one of the last bastions of natural world that we have seen because everything else seems to be, at best, people hiding in mountain cabins in Canada or along coastal stretches in Mexico.
Yeah.
We don't see anything that is really a natural place besides that. And the fact that he talks about the people up in the Neo nations up in space, they're living in synthetic worlds and they don't have the true life that is the planet. So heck you all get to have your weird shaped islands in space. We're going to destroy the planet and have fun getting resources.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Because, like, if you let nature take over, like, the resources are still there again. It feels like his main problem is actually with the colonies. So I don't know why he doesn't try to destroy those.
I think it's, again, a twisting of a thought that he's been stuck with for the past 3 years prior to this Gundam fight.
Yeah.
It is only in the past year that the Ultimate Gundam drops to the Earth and becomes the Devil Gundam. Master Asia sees what its abilities are and agrees with what it seems to be doing, thinking it to be a benevolent act in a malicious faction. Associates himself with it, but knows that his body is not strong enough to actually replace Kyoji, so he has to find somebody else who can fill in the spot. And only by chance does he find Domon among those who would become the Shuffle Alliance when they all find their way to Shinjuku.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Okay, so up to this point, Master Asia is going off the understanding that as long as I can do all this and Wan Yun Fat does what he's doing, somehow not seeing that he's a snake in the grass, piece of shit politician, as long as all those things go through, he can get to the annihilation of mankind, do the sacrifice that is all the innocent people for all the villains that, you know, are being aided and abetted by the innocence of people not wanting to involve themselves in war, but instead an Olympic fight, and make the world and his conscience feel better because he is in fact truly the King of Hearts. His heart is so great and is so burdened by the guilt of what he's done as a Gundam fighter that he wants to atone. But as they say, at least in my side, I don't know if they do it on yours, he almost makes the same mistake twice because of what Domon suggests, which is, well, humans are part of nature too. We came from it. And if you kill all humans, you're still harming nature. So it's this weird, I don't fully buy Domon's thing. I think it's just to have your 90s stand-up good guy thing like, hey, we're part of nature. Yeah, we're assholes, but we can get our act together. Thing that was very popular at the time.
I do like the Force ghost of the Shuffle Alliance elucidating this guilt that Master Asia has for us. I think that's that's what's sort of motivating him. So that's neat. But what's throwing me off is that I don't know why he's so sad that these Gundam fights have destroyed these cities, and yet his plan involves demolishing any trace of humankind. That if he would just like look at the way we're wasting away the planet, you know, maybe the Gundam fights have destroyed important, or like doing the Gundam fights uses up important resources that the Earth provides. That would make a lot more sense and feel consistent. That was just something that was throwing me off. I don't even care that Domon's thing is sort of like a platitude. of like stuff. What I'm upset is that somehow by being beaten by Domon, Master Asia has just sort of magically learned that. I wish there was like another way he was able to figure that out that didn't just involve losing. But, you know, this is sort of common in not just some Gundams, but these types of shows, these like shonen martial arts stuff is like, it's always like, prove to me the strength of your conviction by beating me in battle. And it's just sort of the nature of when you have a show structured this way. Like, it's kind of hard to do these types of discussions any other way. It's called like battlefield psychology is the trope name. And it's everybody, just sort of talking through their feelings as they're beating each other up. You know, other Gundams are guilty of it too. And so like, okay, fine. But I think you had something interesting here. You just sort of cheated a little bit to get there at the end.
I'm going to go ahead and say that way back in the early episodes of us doing this podcast, I mentioned a ecology theme here. And I think it was much greater in my mind that this plot point came up and stuck with me. Mm-hmm. But because I didn't remember every single episode, I think that I might have incorporated more of that ecology theme in my brain when in fact it is a postscript on the series. And if you look at the series in total as a afterthought, you can see the little like head nods to it with the set pieces and everything, but it is not a primary theme, a primary motif of the series.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly stood out to me too. It was one of the few things I remembered, and it's something worth exploring. I just would like something else to help Master Asia learn his lesson.
Set up precedent very early on in this series for the idea of being able to communicate with one's fists. That the soul is bared to another person when discussing through the act of martial arts and combat. They do a great job, I don't know in the dub, but at least in the sub, of depicting this sadness that is in Master Asia, that his soul weeps and cries out. It's in pain due to the way that he feels about everything that's been happening in at least the past year. And I think that is a strong motivator that a lot of people often forget. I mean, hell, it's even in the call out for the original Shining Finger line. Now take this, my love, my anger, and all my sorrow. We've seen anger mostly throughout the series. Love finds its way into being one of the more powerful emotions for the E system that they use for the Shining and God Gundams. But sorrow has barely poked its head out, and it does show in Master Asia that his sadness, which he masks behind his combat strategy and everything else, that he is truly a softer, more gentle-natured person than we get to see, and is more like the Master Asia that Domon remembers. So it really sucks that we have not one, but two major losses for Domon back to back, having to kill his brother with his brother's shadow in the body of an old German man.
Yes.
And then to lose the man that was effectively his second father.
Yeah, I've got no problem. You know, this is the nature of a show like this, the fight talking with your fists. So like when Domon punches Master Asia early on, he's like, his fingers, they're sad. Aside from regular Patrick rolling his eyes, Patrick watching the show goes like, okay, I have no problem with this. This is the nature of the show. They have set this up, so it doesn't really come out of nowhere. What does annoy me, which isn't really related, is just all of the spinning green tornadoes and like their heads are like twirling around.
I'm glad you mentioned something. I meant to look this up earlier.
Yeah.
I want to find out the proper name for the attack, because I know how came up, and I don't know if that's like Fire King or something like that, because, again, it's often used for denoting someone of high rank and royalty. I know at least in one of my Kamen Rider movies, there was a movie writer called Kamen Rider Hao, and he was constantly eating. So I don't know if it's a consumption thing, but then again, that could feed into fire. Anyway.
Yeah, it could. What I also think they could have spent some time on is that Master Asia, it looks like he's beating Domon and he's doing a really good job. And Domon's like, oh my God, how am I going to win? And then suddenly he just sort of does, because maybe the episode was running long and they had to end it. I wish there was something, he learned something, or he remembered a Kyoji lesson, or even one of his master's earlier lessons, and then like found that, and then, or Rain coached him up or something. There were things you could have done. And that would have been nicer. I would have even taken the Shuffle Alliance cheering him on and being like, you can do it, Domon, don't give up. You are the best. That would have been fine. But it was just like, I'm going to win now. And then he did. And then it was over.
Okay, I found the name. Chokyu Hao Den Edan. Super King Electric Shadow Bullet is what the literal translation is.
All right, that's kind of fun.
Cho, I know, is super, but I don't know that the Q applies there. O is king. Den Edan. It's weird, but yeah, that is the name of the attack.
Okay, well, that's fine.
I can buy that he does the bullet for this, the green tornado bullet, because it's the attack that we've seen his master use. So we're seeing the pupil using one of the more powerful techniques that the master has used on him on several occasions.
Yeah, I mean, the nature, I don't know, the doing of it, if they can do it, why they do it, I just don't like the depiction of it. Like, it's this serious climactic thing, and I'm just like, this all looks silly. Their heads are twirling around. They just spin so fast. They're like a cyclone. I take a step back there and I go like, not for me.
It makes sense if you've been watching diligently the whole series. Like, why is Domon doing that? That's stupid. I get it. You know, that's kind of the mode of operation that my brain went through.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an aesthetics thing, right? There are just a lot of other anime does kind of like cartoonish fighting like this too. So, you know, a lot of people kind of come to anime because they like this stuff. So I get that. But for me,
if
I
you're
don't
a
like
fan.
it.
If you're a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you probably like G-Gundam.
Yeah, that might be an apt comparison. And then lastly, Master Asia reveals no Devil Gundam cells have affected him, which is fine. It's a nice touch, but now kind of confuses me because I go, well, then how did you survive your Dragon Ball Z death halfway through the show?
I think that's what the impetus was for him to start having the cough hack wheeze thing. He's been at death's door, but due to Asian folklore, mysticism, bullshit, he's able to use his training and his residual power as the King of Hearts, as we see him also hold the King of Hearts symbol on his fist as they finish the fight. He never 100% imparted the King of Hearts onto Domon, and I think we can now assume that Domon should have more effective use of that now than he did prior.
Yeah, I mean, whatever that would mean, yes.
Yes, but all in all, I'm going to say that when you stack martial arts, supernatural nature, along with this ethereal galactic knighthood on top of each other, that might be an extra little like red boop tinging in the back of his skull for the next 20 episodes after he nearly dies in the Ghana Highlands.
Well, I just would have directed that slightly differently. I would have done this off-screen death, or like Domon shoots the thing and, you know, maybe like we zoom in on Master Asia and then we cut back and there's a big explosion, or like we just know Master Asia's there and then the explosion happens. But like we went and we sort of spent a lot of time watching his pencil etchings kind of like dissolve there. So that is sort of too strong of an indicator. If now I have to buy that he survived that. That's what I would have done to not give me this question at a moment when I should be focusing on this little poem mantra they're reciting at the end.
I do love that they do that, though. It is a great moment, and it did hit me.
Yeah, like that, perfectly fine. You set it up well. It's kind of a moment you probably want between those two characters with the way that it ends. I got no beef with that. You know, you just took me out of it a little bit on something else. I wish I were more focused on that. Because now you robbed yourself a little bit of it, and you shouldn't. That's an important one. That's all. Perfectly fine episode. And at the end of it, I'm just like, wait, you killed off... I thought politician guy was going to last for a while. He gets this unceremonious death. And then my thought is like, oh, we got 4 episodes left? What are we going to do? And then I thought like, oh yeah, space guy. He's still kicking around. I forgot about him because he's been so not important.
Well, they've done the implication by just using Professor Mikamura this whole time as the repentant scientist.
Yes.
So now we're going to see whatever that's going to be doing. And we have to also remember that we just had a major moment for Rain as well, even though it doesn't get nearly as much screen time. In her Lady Gundam fight with Allenby. I don't know how well they acted out on your side, but on mine, we see that she's trying to avoid harming this person that, whether or not she wants Domon to be interested in her, she she loves Domo unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
She wants him to be happy and also does not want to take human life.
Mm-hmm.
So when she is pushed to the corner and has no other option, even though Allenby is told that the berserker system is off, she's still going ape.
Yes.
So Rain puts her hand out for doing the rising arrow attack, gets bit, and is being eaten at the hand by the Walter Gundam, still sets it off, completely obliterates the Gundam, and at the moment we're supposed to believe that Allenby is dead.
Yes, the rare Gundam to have a mouth.
You gotta love the marketing.
Yeah, it keeps the show alive, so if that's what it takes.
Well, speaking of marketing,
yes,
and some of my bitterness towards how G Gundam gets shafted compared to Gundam Wing, let's talk about Gundam Wing.
Well, what's standing out to you? It's a little bit of a duo episode. I know he's your dude.
Yes, and I appreciate getting my moments with Duo here. I think they're well-deserved, and it's the closest that he's going to have to any kind of real fight with Hero at this point. I think this fight was due all the way back in the first arc or two. The two of them should have been able to fight each other, not necessarily in the Vayat and Mercurius. Vayat and Mercurius. But we never got that. We never got to have our Duo v Hero fight, which I feel like they tried to set up enough of. I feel like Duo gets a lot of this underdeveloped rivalry with Hero that is only ever alluded to and never fully actualized. Is that a fair point to make?
I mean, to me, it always felt like Duo and Hero, despite having similar goals, were just always on a different page. And Duo just couldn't understand what goes on in Hero's mind and finds him utterly perplexing.
To be fair, I do too.
Yeah, but the rivalry, I don't know how much that was there. And what annoys me about this fight isn't that it happens, but like how easily Duo is able to dispatch probably the two most competent and talented of the Gundam pilots. And it's like 2 minutes and it's done. And
they hand wave it in a matter of a single line.
Yes, I know.
Well, no, but we have to do that if we're going to try and speed that up because we're apparently on a 49 episode ticking clock.
I think you could have just donated time elsewhere. Like my thought here is that because Duo is kind of the thief of the group, I wish he had been the one to sneak into Libra. But you're kind of pigeonholed in what he can do because you need him on that, because you've already got him on the piecemeal, you need him to be the G team. But I think like that'd be a good role for him. And I know we want something to do with Hildy too, because we don't want to forget about her, but I don't know, that's Duo's skill, and that's, like that, I would be more interested in him sneaking around than him in a generic Gundam battle. I
get what you're saying, but where we never really portray his thief nature throughout the entirety of the animation, I can buy that we don't get that bit of his backstory at this moment. And I will say that if you want to try and alleviate that, you just make the point episodes back just before he leaves Hildy behind that they talk about thieving skills and what he's been able to teach her over their time together. And then that hand waves it to, okay, this is Duo Beta, and Duo Beta is going in doing the stealing thing because she's learned from Duo, and go from there.
I mean, I don't mind that she can do it. And in the manga specifically, she is a member of the White Fang. So she's already on the ship anyway. And then sees the cannon go off and she's like, uh-oh, this isn't going to end well. And that's when she decides to help out the Peace Million. So like all that's fine. We just do a disservice to Duo by just having him kind of just fly around to save her and then beat up on some mobile dolls because we wanted to do this final dungeon kind of nonsense stuff. I mean, I guess, but a thing did come to mind. I don't know if it's worth saving for the way we go, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, that's fine then. What else is jumping out at you? The chess scene. I like the chess scene. I figured you would. Yeah, the scene is nice because obviously we're just using the chessboard while in the table eating area as a way to still have the idea of developing plan structure and seeing what everybody else is thinking in the course of these last moments of a war. But we're applying it to a game, and we're seeing, I get the most out of the
three who are actually involving themselves at the chessboard,
Yes.
but have nothing to really say about Hiro and Catra.
Yes, unfortunately.
It's just, correct me if I'm wrong. I want to understand if I am taking away the same thing that you might be taking away.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that seems to be most forefront is based on the character that we probably spend the least amount of time with, Wu Fei, just making a decisive action and being willing to sacrifice pieces because the best defense is a good offense. Just don't let them up, because if you try to stay too defensive, you cut away options. So we understand it's very clearly A to B, chessboard to the field. Nothing really below surface level on that one, right?
Yes, and this is right. This is his integrity again. He's, you don't want to be paralyzed by indecision, in this defensive front that Duo was having, as they're talking about, like, what do we do about Libra and Trays? And so, like, we got to do, and then Wu Fei comes in to help out, and he's like, nope, you just got to get them both. And so, boop. And like, they're your enemies.
Do they actually openly say it on the
No,
English?
No. But that's the implication when he just makes the one move and he beats Troa. And he's just like you said, best defense is good offense, because you don't want your head clouded by worrying about all the things when you're trying to parry what they're doing. You go in and do what you need to do to win the game.
The second thing that I take away is the acknowledgement of how Troa is such a mentalist when it comes to his structure on the field. Not just at the chessboard, but on the field. Yeah. He is making very decisive actions, but he is doing so from an intellectual standpoint, not from a act first, ask questions later standpoint, like we might say of Wu Fei. Mm-hmm. And then Duo, who is, I want to say, our audience perspective character in this regard, because we all want to feel as capable as someone like Duo, but we're also about as inept at acting in a way that is beyond having hands on a cockpit like Duo. Duo is not trained for warfare. Duo just does what he does. Mm-hmm. So when we see him trying to think his strategies out and then appreciate the move, that's great. We agree. But then he's like, oh, okay, Troa makes another move. Where the hell do I go from here?
Yeah.
That's a wholly audience perspective situation, I feel.
Well, I would first to the Troa thing. Yep, he that just from having been in combat since he was 5, he definitely knows the in and outs. He's very well studied compared to Wu Fei's more instinctual approach to it. With Duo, I actually think one of the things that makes Gundam successful is that they're all audience vehicles. It's just, what type of audience member are you? And so, like, that's what I think helps it be so wide-reaching, is there are Duo audience members, but there are also Catra audience members, Troa audience members.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, in specific notion to this scene, I think that the bulk of the people who are sitting here waiting for the final act to conclude are sitting in Duo's seat among all 5. I'm going to take this moment to talk about Catra and Hiro here. Catra is notably the furthest away from the battlefield, because as we've come to understand from a scene prior, he no longer needs to have the zero system to affect his ability to act as we needed him to do in the prior episode. He is, for all intents and purposes, a better tactician and best left outside of the fight, at least in regards to space combat. He can disregard that because they seem to have everything as part of their 3-man platoon over there. Then we go over to Hiro, and Hiro's in his head. Hiro is definitely making some sort of a decision that is not involving himself with the rest of them. It is likely in relation to the thing that we saw at the beginning episode, beginning of the episode, the prelude, where we are reminded that Zex may or may not see the same outcome that Hiro has using the zero system, that Zex may not have a future. And I have to wonder if there's more information that we don't know about what the zero system has told him. Is it that everyone up here is going to die and that he's trying to keep himself distanced from these individuals? Is it that he knows that they're going to have to do a big thing involving Relena, and where he still has not truly expressed his emotions about any of these individuals yet? He's trying to come to terms with whatever actions he's about to take. He is the enigma, the wild card of the 5 of them at the moment.
Well, so on those 2, I actually think we don't chess with them so much because we kind of understand their positions the best, right? You're right. Catcher is going to be the tactician. And we can very reasonably assume that Hero's going to be the one on the front lines dealing with the Epion, right? So we don't have to, but we don't really know where these other three kind of would stand out or what their approaches might be. So I think we wanted to define them. And I still kind of stand by my argument where I think you're coming at it from Duo, as I probably did circa 2001. But like this time and the last time, I'm more like, I kind of, if I'm in that position, I'm doing what Wu Fei's doing. And it's like, you got to take care of both of them, because if you only do one, the other one's going to be a bigger problem, or it's just going to continue the cycle. We got to end this here. So that's why I think you can kind of get what you want out of it depending on where your predilections are. And that's probably why I can watch this 11 times, because my predilections have changed. And probably there was a time when I was Troa, maybe in the middle of the last decade, or the aughts, I guess I would call them. So like that's the advantage that the show, that's what, for me, it can grow because there are different perspectives you can take that are all vying for main-ishness outside of Hero. That's fun. But I get why you would, I get why you would feel why it's Duo being the audience perspective, because that's where you are currently.
I think I also fit in with Duo's perspective here on a personal level because I am unsure of a lot of things.
Yeah.
In terms of a non-war thing, but a life thing. There are a lot of options that I may not see, and the analysis paralysis is real. That is a very big thing. So where you have come to a point in your life on your path that you can be like, okay, I've done enough thinking and plotting. It's time to act and act fast. It makes sense why you're seeing things from a Wu Fei perspective.
Yeah.
But for me, who is trying to optimize with little information, I'm doing my best with the information that I've got. And that's why I think the average first-time viewer is probably going to feel the same way with the Duo thing, unless they're like, might be their first watch of Wing, but somehow they're a Gundam fan who's watched everything else.
No, but it might not even be that. Like, people just bring their own lives in, right? So, like, I don't know. I grew up when I was, hanging out at the nerd stores at my middle school days. There were just people there, and, like, anime was, like, their outlet for, like, hero fantasizing themselves or whatever. So I could easily see them thinking that they're a hero, and so coming at it from a hero point of view, right? It's not about the information that they have. They're just like, if I were there, I just beat the shit out of all of them because they all suck. And so, like, it might not have anything to do with how often you've watched it. I think, though, you're right. In your life's journey, there is a lot of things to kind of like, you don't have all the information on, you don't quite know. But what would be fascinating is in 5 years, if you're somewhere different and you came back and watched it, the show would really be a different experience for you. That's the advantage the show has. All right, anything else? Right, we've talked, for seeing that last 2 minutes, we have talked a great deal about it.
Listen, you can say the same thing about a lot of other great pieces of film.
Yes, you're right.
There are very specific scenes in a lot of different films where the rest of the film can be summarized in about 10 to 15, but you can find one scene and that might have so many different interpretations and, philosophical sidetracks that you can go on.
Yeah, so, another thing that helps me rewatch a show like this.
Yeah, but other than that, I only have, I think, 2 or 3 tiny points, and then we can go the way we go.
Sure.
One is Zex's interaction with, I'm forgetting long white-haired guy's name who's in over his head.
Cans.
So Cans is a fucking idiot.
Yes.
I've come to understand this now. Like, before he was able to go on this crusade and use his force of personality and the fact that he seems wizened by the way that he is aged.
Lofty ideals,
but no thought behind it. It's just, This is what I want.
Yes.
Let's just keep reacting.
Yes. And somehow Dorothy becomes the voice of reason. That's not where you want to be.
No, it's not. But noting that even though the person that he chose to be the face of his group, the military commander that he actively sought out, told him, you probably shouldn't do that. No, but we have to do that. All right. I mean, I'm going to rest before the rest of the war. You do what you're going to do.
Yes.
It's not like you told me to come on because I know better, but you know what? You got this, buddy. So I thought that was interesting, and to a lesser extent, the incorporation of how Dorothy effectively dictates what he's going to have to do anyway. If you're going to make this bad move, at least make the optimized bad move. And he still tries to resist that.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? This is not a game. Look at me in my male perspective. And she's like, yeah, but you're being an idiot. And then he does it. He just follows along with her plan anyway. I love that.
Yeah, poor Cans.
No, not poor Cans. I don't feel bad. Second thing.
Yeah.
What the fuck is Dorothy?
Yes, I know. It's so exciting, isn't it?
I don't know that exciting is the word I have yet.
Yeah.
I have batshit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know whether or not she has some even greater ulterior motive for the part that she's trying to play, or if she's finally realizing that she's in over her head. It looks like, in some cases, she's trying to get Relena to move and be on her level, try to take her down from her lofty place and bring her down to where she is, which is still just above everyone else in the rest of the world. In other cases, I feel like she's getting frustrated that her perspective is being put to the test, and she's having to call into question whether or not going through these warlike tactics, not in terms of a thought experiment, but active act, is throwing her game off. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next 4 episodes does with her, and or whether or not we just junk her.
Yes, I know. Like, this is a character where a person could come in. I think most audiences, because of the way we're taught to read media, they do like an episode or 2, and then they'd be like, okay, this is who she is. And like, they would have a really hard time losing that perspective. And so when things would happen that would contradict it, they feel confused, or they feel annoyed, or they think it's bad writing. And I think that's you not sort of engaging with the text. So I'm glad you're keeping open-minded. I think that's very important, because Dorothy, like I sort of mentioned when she came, is this kind of enigma of a character, and she is complex, and there are motivations that aren't fully stated, but like are hinted at, and that's what makes her appealing to me times 5 through 11 of watching the show, because now I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is she? What is really going on here? And it's very exciting. Just real quick, we'll do a little manga check-in. Here, the manga actually upgrades the Virgos. They're Virgo 2s now to make it a little extra challenging for the others. They're painted differently for space, and they're actually more meant for space combat than Earth, that the original Virgos were, as they were meant to be an Earth invasion force. Back right when we had Relena shooting or being asked by Dorothy to shoot her to stop the mobile dolls, Hildy actually comes in here to stop Relena from, because Relena's about to shoot Dorothy, and Hildy stops her so that she won't lose her morality, right? Her ideals. What Hildy's also doing is she stumbles across the data for the mobile doll system that's linked with the Epion, and she's able to kind of like disrupt that for a little bit. So that's what ends the battle. And causes Dorothy to go and be like, fire the cannon. They get it fixed though, so no worries there. Going a little bit further back, the Mercurius and the V8 actually pop up in that Troa coming back to the Peace Million scene, right? So he's on his colony, gets captured by those guys. Then the V8 and the Mercurius like attack him. They're brought in to like help. And so he's able to kind of defeat the V8 kind of easily, because he's thinking the same way as the V8 is, obviously. But then the Mercurius is giving him trouble because it's Hero. But that's when Hero comes and kind of helps him out. But he gets so destroyed in that battle with the Mercurius before Hero comes that he's ready to self-destruct to take it out. But that's when Catherine comes and stops him. Hero comes. Then they go and join the Peace Million. So that, I think, works better than what we get here. All right, now, where do you want to go this week in The Way We Go?
Like sand through the hourglass, this is the way that we go.
Looking at the V8 and Mercurius, I feel like we've touched on it before, but treating them as the red and blue Oni in this moment in the animation, I think is a very smart tactic. It does feed into your final dungeon vibe, but on the same turn, it just better situates what those suits are meant to represent. They are the last devils of what if these two characters had never been swayed. We have to use them as mobile dolls
Yeah.
Because it's not that we're going to have somebody who's on their level suddenly out of nowhere. Do you think that the red and blue Oni conceit, not just, hey, one's red and one's blue, and that's to show that they are, superpowers of this group, do you think it applies?
I mean, it could, and I wouldn't even hate it that much because it is sort of so hidden back there. It's just a fun thing for you to play with. I mean, I would have no beef with somebody who had an interpretation of it. It's not where my mind went, but it's very plausible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, guarding the gates of hell, this final bastion of war, these two are meant to be the things that make sure that war stays up, and you have to defeat those in order to get to your final bliss, your final peaceful world. Mm-hmm. It is a way to interpret it. So those are my two way we goes this week. What about you?
So I'm coming at this with no connotation. I just want to talk about it matter-of-factly, right? We see this a lot in fighting animes where, like, even my favorite, Ice Shield 21, where things are happening in combat, and people in the audience have to kind of remark on it, right? We see the Shuffle Alliance doing it here. Yeah. And part of it is to give us an idea of, like, who is winning and losing. They don't do that so much here, so it's not really about that. It's just sort of giving us kind of extra stuff to describe what it means, why it's important, what the theme of the show is. And it reminds me of the Greek chorus. Like, that's really what its function is, right? Ally McBeal, of all shows, did this too at the end of the episodes when she would go to the bar and people would, like, sing songs. Like, they would actually sing like a Greek chorus would. So, like, it's nice that these traditions that are 5,000 years old are still kind of very prevalent, even in Eastern media, where they were kind of less exposed and influenced by these things in the evolution of their storytelling. So it's, coming from a classics, you and I did a Greek tragedy together, Bob, where I was the chorus.
Yes, we did.
And it does have an interesting function. You don't always need it, but I like shows trying to use it in different ways to get important points across when your storytelling types are kind of limited in what they can do.
I will add to that, though, that when I've seen it done in some shows, typically meant for a younger or all ages perspective.
Yeah.
It feels more like it panders and talks down the lesson of the day is, as opposed to being able to help you reinterpret the information, whether or not you fully understood something, so that you can then better analyze it.
Well, like with all things, there are ways to do them right and wrong.
I think it's time that we go and take a seat in the nerd corner.
Phew, my legs are tired. That's a good idea, Bob.
Yeah.
Let's take a walk to the nerd corner, where we will talk about a lot of nerd stuff. Yeah.
Well, I have kind of a pretty standard nerd corner. I think most nerds would kind of like this. Oh. You may remember I got sort of the Spite Switch that was sent to me some months ago.
Yes.
And I've been like,
Spite Switch.
And all I've been doing is playing old Mario games on it. Like, I'm not utilizing the technology to its full capabilities. But I finally purchased a game. Square Enix had a sale, a Golden Week sale. And so there was like half off on this. They have remade Seiken Densetsu 3, which is the sequel to Secrets of Mana that we have over here. We never got Seiken Densetsu 3 in English. This is the first time. It's like 3D, but not annoyingly 3D like Final Fantasy IV Remake was. It's got extra levels, extra classes, post-game content. So I said, well, it's $20. I actually like that game of the 4 in the series. That's the one I like the most. Let me give that one a shot. So I'll be having that come to me probably by the time this episode airs. I'll have it, and I'll be able to kind of get 10 minutes here and there on it. So it'll be easier to get through than Final Fantasy VII, which requires a little more time, sadly. So that's what I've got going on here. What's going on in your nerd corner?
4 tiny things.
Okay. Well, let's go.
Okay. First one is Premium Bandai.
Yes, I'm familiar with them.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that you knew about it, and I wanted to know whether or not you
bought like 3 models from them in the last year. Yeah.
Good to know. I was about to ask if you'd seen some of them, including the high-grade V8 and Mercurius that they did have on pre-order. It is no longer on pre-order.
Yes, I saw them. I did not go for them.
I'm surprised because I figured that would be great, if for nothing else than to have as set pieces or even to try to do some mock-up kit bashes.
I don't know if I would be, it would be a very rare instance where I would do a kit bash, I think.
Well, I feel like that would have been a great place to do it if you were able to get those on sale and keep one while getting rid of the other. I would keep whichever the red one is. That's
Mercurius. Mm-hmm.
That is the Mercurius. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that one's my favorite one, too.
I was going to say, if there was a way for you to meet up with somebody, one of you takes both the V8s, one of you takes both the Mercuriuses, in your case, the Mercurius, taking the bits off of it, the shield bits, and then applying that as a extra piece to a Gundam that you feel would have made sense to have it, like as an upgrade or just a reminiscent part of things. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out, and the fact that they had like all three types of Leo and things like that on there. I was just sifting it earlier today. Thought I'd mention it. What were the kits that you got?
Well, one of them I can't tell you. You'll know why soon. One of them is the Zhang, which is the final antagonistic. It's actually a mobile armor at the end of the original Gundam that Char pilots. That thing is just a bizarre looking dude. And then most recently, I have done somewhat what you kind of suggested in the manga sequel to the movie Gundam F91. Well, actually, it's the sequel to the sequel of that.
Yeah.
There is like a guy, and he is kind of stupid, but the suits look cool, where he has like split personalities, and one is like good and one is evil. And so he has this Gundam that also turns into a hand, but because of the split personalities, he has two of them, and one's the right hand and one's the left hand, and he can pilot both of them with his mind or something. So I got the right hand, and Shinji got the left hand of that. It's like the Cagliostro Gundam, something called like that.
Oh.
And there's slight differences, but they're mostly the same. They're just, like when they're Gundam form, they're oriented differently because of the thumbs and how that works.
That's really cool. We'll have to talk about mecha stuff at another point, because I've got a Sentai thing that does something similar.
Well, let's go.
Astral Ascent.
What is
the
this?
Kickstarter that it recently finished, but there is a backer kit that will be going out. Highly recommend it. It is a game that is going to be a roguelite, but it has a lot of really nice platforming and it feels really good. I played through the demo that they put out. The alpha demo is no longer up in stores, but back it and you might get access. It's just, if you like video games and you want something that has really nice art, really great music, it doesn't cost a lot to just get the digital edition. Go for it. Third thing, Pocky. There is a flavor that I highly recommend people start eating more, so it might become more of a mainstay. Skeyhill and I had at least one snack that we both loved that was taken off the market maliciously.
No!
Twizzly Twerps, no!
Yes, it upsets me. I'm even having a hard time finding the backup one they made.
This the sweet and sour one that is the... I've seen those. You can still get them. They're just they're not mainstay line.
Yeah.
But somehow the normal red and black ones are. I don't get it.
The red one I get. That's just like, I don't know, a Hershey's bar. But the black, I don't know who likes black licorice. Those people are weird.
This Pocky the flavor is called Tasty. I don't have another way to go about it.
Marketing.
I'm going to show the box to Skeyhill because we do this over a video chat.
That is an odd looking. Was that caramel?
It's delicious because it's got a thicker biscuit. It has a very nice mellow chocolate flavor. It's not like overly sweet like the standard red boxes. And it depicts on the cover like some melting butter and jar of cream. So like it is very much more an adult's Pocky as opposed to just, here, let me get as much sugar in me as I can. Red Pocky.
Oh, the butter makes it adult. Gotcha.
No, the crispier biscuit that has these notes to it is what makes it more adult.
Okay.
Last thing, our very own Patrick Skeyhill also has a Vimeo, and I highly recommend going and finding it because if you enjoy the more scholarly academic nature of this series, you can really appreciate the video essays that he does. Looking at his one on David Lynch, maker of several fine films and television series. Skeyhill does a great job of pursuing what it is that makes Lynch's work. And besides that, he's also done, what were a few of the other directors that you've gone over?
I've done Andrei Tarkovsky, that sort of started this video essay speed rush about 11 months ago now. And David Lynch, obviously, and then Mikhail Haneke was my most recent one.
So there's those, but also things that talk about the structure of films and how we perceive things. There's a great one on Westerns that he's done. There is a great one on use of camera that I highly recommend for anybody who is a newer film student. Looking at that particular video is great if you want to better understand how the camera can be utilized as more than just the eye of the audience. So those are my 4.
Yeah, that video has tested the best with people who know the least about cinema. So that was an interesting discovery.
It's very informative,
yes.
And it does so in a way that is not overly scholarly to the point of being a boring video that you watched in class.
So I have actually, because I have 6 of those now, finally made a section of the website, quixoticunited.com, where you can also find those videos as well, if you wanted to go to the mothership.
As you should. But that's all I have in my nerd corner. I know it seems like a lot. It's just 4 little packets.
Just little packs. My go-to Pocky is the Almond Crunch in the gold box. Fan of that one.
I know it. And I still haven't really gone for that one yet, but that doesn't tend to show up in the variety packs because they give you like 3 flavors you like and 3 ones that are really just not great.
They're just trying to get it out of the factory. Like, shit, we made too much.
Well, you've got the banana flavored one, and that's
So, yeah, Micah, fellow Gundam fan, big fan of both banana-flavored stuff and black licorice. He's an odd one.
I have thoughts on that, but I'll let him listen to that here.
Yes. Then I think we get to wrap up. Well, let's thank Lev Van Rensselaer for minding those audio boards. Let me thank my co-host this week, as he will be each and every week this season, Bob Skerry. Bob, you got any plugs?
Hey, hi, Worldwide Sentai. This is Bob Skerry VOA, coming at you live from Zaku Talk HQ. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and a slew of other places by my handle, Bob Skerry VOA. You can also find me at bobskerryvoa.com, where you can listen to my demo reels, because I am, in fact, a voiceover artist.
And I am your host, Patrick Skeyhill. You can find my features, documentaries, short films, video essays, now with their own section, animations, behind-the-scenes footage, and so much more at quixoticunited.com and social media, presumably with a similar-sounding name. You can also find all of our podcasts, this and the other ones that I do, at Quixotic Harmonics. Thank you all for listening. Bob, tell the audience why white men can't jump.
Well, a lot of them are heavy.